Welcome to another episode of What's Growin On. I'm Jayne Spooner, and I'm a University of Minnesota Master Gardener here in Rice County. And we're back in my backyard. The sun finally came out, the weather warmed up, and so we've been kind of busy getting ready in the garden. And so when I was thinking about doing this month's episode, I thought, well, no episode of What's Growin On is complete without me doing a container garden presentation. And I do a lot of container gardens in my yard just because I like to do different things. I like to design and always try something new. And so we are going to be doing something a little more unusual for this container demonstration. We're actually doing a container that will help combat the nasty Minnesota state bird. No, I'm not talking about the eagle. We're talking about that nasty mosquito that comes around when you're trying to have a nice quiet night on your patio or having dinner and you get that slap, slap. So I've done a little research, and I probably think that the University of Minnesota Extension and Garden site probably doesn't really call this research-based, but I keep seeing these things come up from people and they say that it works. It works. So we're going to try planting a mosquito-resistant pot, and we're going to be putting in some plants and some herbs that hopefully will help deter that nasty little bugger from coming and bothering you on a nice quiet evening out on your patio, and especially your kids, because I don't know, kids nowadays, they seem to swell up so bad, and I feel so sorry for them when I see the little mosquito bites and their eyes swollen or their ears swollen. So here we are, complete with my container, and I kind of pre-filled it. So we're going to kind of go over some of the basics of container gardening, just for those of you that may be new to container gardening or you just want a refresher course. So I have here with me an empty container. And when you select your container, it can be ceramic or plastic. I'm probably going to a little bit more plastic for myself just because, you know, the old back just ain't what it used to be. And so it's getting a little heavier to move all these fancy ceramic pots around. So, you know, there's some really cool plastic pots. This looks like a terracotta pot, but it's certainly much more lighter than a ceramic or a full terracotta one. And one of the things you always want to make sure to look for is drainage holes in the bottom. And that's probably the most important thing that I can tell you to have drainage, because you want your plants to drain. Because actually, more plants will die because of overwatering and bad drainage than they will from not being watered. So now you're probably going to ask, well, all that dirt's going to come running out. Well, here you go. For those of you that have never done a container garden, you actually put either paper towels, or you can even use coffee filters. You know, you can go to the dollar store and buy a whole pack of these and just put that in the bottom. And then especially on big pots like this is kind of big, and so it takes a lot of dirt to fill up, and dirt's expensive, and I'm kind of lazy, so I usually dump my stuff every year, but I always buy new. That's just me. A lot of people will save it from year to year and just amend it, or they'll take out the dirt, what's viable, and they'll mix it with fresh potting soil and add in their fertilizers and stuff. It's all a personal choice what you want to do. But for me, this works the easiest for me is to just buy new soil every year. But that's, like I said, your choice. So in order to bring up my soil level on a container like this, because I don't want to put all that dirt in there, I use the old plastic pots. I save these as I'm planting, and then I just stack them in the bottom of my container. And if it's a really deep container, I can usually put 2 levels, which I was able to do in this one. And then you flip them upside down, because this too has drainage holes in it, so the water will go through that, and you just start to fill up your pot with soil. And that's kind of how you start your container garden. So line the bottom of this. There's drainage holes on it. I lined it with some paper towels on the bottom. I put the plastic pots in there, and I filled it up with soil. Now what I'm going to do is add my fertilizer. And this is a time-release fertilizer. It's pelleted. And all I do is shake it in. And this, because containers are watered often, they say that this lasts for like 3 months. But because you're watering so often a container, because it doesn't really retain because it's up above the ground, so you get it heated up or you get the wind drying it out, it will maybe last about 6 weeks. And that's when I start to supplement it using like a Miracle Grow or what we call blue water, some type of a water soluble fertilizer that you can start watering, and just follow the directions on the label. And usually if you use it full strength, use that like every 10 to 14 days, but it just kind of keeps up the health of your soil, which is able to feed your plants in its root system. So now to the plants that we've selected to help deter that nasty mosquito from coming around. So these are just a few of them that I have selected. I've selected basil, a scented geranium, or also known as a citronella plant, rosemary, peppermint, marigolds, and lavender. And I'm going to put in a red salvia and a portulaca just for a little fun and a little bit of color, because you can see this is all just kind of green. And it's my pot, and I'm just going to do what I want to because it's my pot and I want to. So what we're going to do is we've gotten all of these plants gathered together. We just went to the local greenhouse, found them, and then I'll give you a list of some other plants that you can utilize too if you find them. And all I'm going to do is just kind of set this around in the pot. So I'm going to see the front side of this. So I'm kind of just, for the purpose of the audience, I'm just going to kind of see how they all fit in there. Now this is lemongrass. So it's got a lemony scent. And the nice thing about some of the plants that you're actually putting in here is stuff that you can use either later on or throughout the summer, just by pinching it off, which actually helps its growth. But with lemongrass, later on in the fall, when you get ready to take your container apart, there's going to be some big, thicker stalks in here, and you can actually take and harvest those and dry them out and then grind them up in a spice grinder. So it's just a nice grass. And if you know the 3 rules of container gardening, thriller, filler, and spiller, I guess you could call this our thriller. And then I'm going to add this red salvia right in front of it, just because it's going to be a tall one too. And I also put this in there because I love the hummingbirds that come into my backyard. I use a lot of different colored salvias in it. And this was sitting in this box here for the last week or so, and my granddaughter was over, and she happened to be outside when a hummingbird was there feeding off of it. And so she was just mesmerized by this hummingbird that was feeding off of Grandma's plant. So we got that guy there. Okay, so now I've got lavender. This is a lavender plant, and there's many different kinds of lavender out there. A lot of people like to try and put it in as a perennial. It's pretty difficult to really, I haven't found one yet that's done very well for me. So we're just going to use this. This is Hidcote lavender. And again, not only is it going to help prevent mosquitoes, but this is also going to attract some butterflies. So this is kind of a dual purpose container. So I'm going to set this guy right here because he's going to get a little bit big. And then this is citronella, or a scented geranium. And if you rub the leaves, it's got a really nice lemony fragrance. And there's also several other scented geraniums out there that you can use. And you really don't smell it until you rub that leaves, and that's when the oils get released and you're having that smell to it. So I'm gonna put this guy right in front as like another filler. And then a little basil. And this is kind of nice because you can snip it off and use it for your caprese salad, or if you're gonna make a pizza on the grill and you want some nice fresh herbs, just come pluck off a few leaves. And the nice thing about it, as you pinch it off from the top, just like I'm gonna do here, it's gonna send more energy down into the root system, and you're gonna get a bushier plant. And then in the fall, if you wanna harvest it and just dry it naturally, you can kind of crumble it up and use it. Or you can chop it up, put it in some olive oil and some ice cube trays and use it like that too. And then we have some mint. Again, rub the leaves, you smell the mint. So we're gonna fit this guy right in there. And then rosemary. I love rosemary too. I can come and clip some of this off. I like to use this in marinades for like chicken. It kind of brings out the flavor of the chicken. And also if I'm doing fresh roasted potatoes, new baby reds or whatever on the grill, I'll take and chop this up in it, and just to give it that rosemary flavor. I'm going to stick this one right in here, and as you can see, it's going to kind of spill over the edge. And a couple more things I'm going to add are marigolds. Again, another deterrent. My mother always used to plant all these marigolds around her garden to deter rabbits, but they also supposedly deter mosquitoes as well. So I'm going to tuck these guys in this corner. And then this is the portulaca, and I guess I'm putting some of this in here just because of the red. So this is going to be a pretty full container as it is. So that's kind of the design work that I'm doing. So I kind of know where I'm going to put stuff. So I'm just going to set some of it off and start planting it here. Now I'll start from the back. I'll pull out this lemongrass. Just pull it out of the container as such. Just kind of give up, because it's kind of compacted in there and you want the roots to loosen up. It's kind of like when you come home from work and you take off your shoes after being on your feet all day. Just dig down in there, and I'm just going to fill them up in there, and then just scoop in, and as you go around and put each plant in, start to fill it up with a little bit of dirt. Okay, and now we've got my cool Roman red salvia. Now this guy's got a lot of roots, so he's going to be happy to get out of that tiny little pot and get into this pot where his legs can stretch out. So you kind of want to just, when you put them in there, just kind of take a look around and see how they're positioned, what they're going to look like from the front. Get a little more dirt in there. Okay. And then we've got our scented geranium. Again, just kind of rough it up. Sometimes a scented geraniums are really known for their leaves and for their scent. And some of them will throw up some little flowers, but they're really insignificant flowers. But this one does not do that as much. Some of the other ones, like there's an apple one and a rose scented, so they'll throw up some flowers. So, okay, we're gonna go in back. We're gonna get our basil. I just love the smell of basil. When the tomatoes are ripe, the very first salad I make is a caprese salad, utilizing my fresh basil, fresh tomatoes, some fresh mozzarella, and some really good olive oil and balsamic vinegar. A nice thick balsamic vinegar that you buy at a specialty shop. If you've never tried that, you have to. It's phenomenal. And then just some black pepper, and then just chiffonade your basil leaves, and you've got a feast right there. Okay, then we've got our lavender. Again, you can pick off some of these flowers and dry them, and you can kind of get the petals and put it in a little bag and put it in your unmentionable drawer for a little lavender sachet, or put it by your pillow or by your nightstand to help you sleep, because lavender is a relaxing scent. Okay, we're gonna get him all tucked right in there nicely. Okay, and then the mint. Now mint, the nice thing about mint in a pot is it's not going to be invasive in it. If you plant this in the ground, you're going to have mint all over the place, and it takes forever to get rid of. I've known some people that have made that mistake. And mint, you can do a lot of things. Cook with it, muddle it, make a nice mojito. Mint oil is actually peppermint oil, they say, will help deter mice from getting in your basement. They don't like the smell of it. So there's just a lot of things that these plants do beside being consumed. Okay, People will also kind of snip off some of their mint and they'll throw it like in their water bottle because it's very, very refreshing. Okay, now we've got rosemary. I have a funny story about rosemary. We were at a wedding in northern Minnesota, and a high school classmate of my friend didn't realize that this rosemary sprig on his plate was actually a garnish, much like parsley, and he ate it. We couldn't figure, all of a sudden he started choking at the table, and he looked at all of us, he's, that there? That's not edible. Don't eat it. You'll be sorry. We laughed so hard at the poor guy. It was just hilarious. He says, that's what I get for not taking my wife along to this wedding so she can tell me what I should eat and shouldn't. So it was pretty funny. Okay, now we've got our Jayne bright yellow marigolds. Again, to add a little color, and the smell will kind of deter things. Get him tucked right in there. Or I guess I should say her, because his name is Jayne. Kind of a cool name. Okay. Get a little bit more dirt around there. And now for this portulaca. This is kind of a succulent. It's a ground cover. They have a beautiful bloom on it. They're just, I'm gonna like the way that it drapes across the front, just to give the pot a little bit of interest. So take some of that dirt off because it doesn't need a big space. And position it so that kind of flows over. Again, this is more for just adding a little bit of decoration to it. Tuck that in there. Okay, there you go. They're all nicely tucked in there. Then just take a look. And then you're going to want to take and make sure you get it very well watered. Just don't just douse it in there, water it, you know, a couple of times, and just let the dirt or the water soak down in there until you kind of start to see it run down through the holes and onto the ground. So people will talk about these mosquito pots as really being, you know, ineffective, but one of the things, you know, is the smell. And one of the things you need to do is to activate these oils that come in it. And so what people recommend actually to do is when you sit down next to this is just run your hands through it. And then smell your hands and then just rub your hands, rub it a little bit behind your ears. And so it's taking this essential oil and releasing it into the air. And you can actually easily put that on to your skin too. If you have really sensitive skin, kind of try it herb by herb on a little spot that you know that you can take care of. So be cautious of that. So there you go. To help us repel the Minnesota state bird, our mosquito. And just another word of caution as far as what you're doing in your yard is don't leave standing water in your yard. That's going to be one of the biggest draws to having mosquitoes hatch in your yard. If you have buckets with water, make sure they're dumped out. If you have water barrels like I have on either end of my house to collect rainwater, I throw mosquito dunks in there so that it doesn't do anything to the plants. But it just helps deter them from laying their eggs in that water and hatching and getting another crop of mosquitoes for it. So these are the things that I have used. A few other things that you can use to add to it if you can find them. So like catnip, if you got a cat and you like to make little catnip treats, you can also use that in the pot. An ageratum, which is called also a floss flower. It's a little button flower. It's kind of fuzzy. A lot of lemon style herbs like lemon thyme, lemon balm, eucalyptus, oregano, garlic, sage, like I said, other varieties of scented geraniums, and then a verbena. So all those can be added to pots like this. And you can do just one, or you can do all, especially the citronella. People like that on their patios. So hopefully we're gonna give this a try this summer and see how this works for my backyard. So stay a little bit tuned after this. We're gonna do a little tour of some of my container pots too, to just see some of the things that I've done, just to give you some ideas. And I hope you have a wonderful summer and just happy digging.